Hi, hello. In this video we are going to see about Git and its workflow. So it is just basic introduction of the Git and how it works. So if you see that Git is very popular among developers and Git is used to keep track of their versions of their code and as a backup tool, like a backup of our code, and they want to see who done what, those kind of stuff. We can keep track using Git. So if you are developing with multiple developers, Git is very useful tool. So if you see what is version control system. Version control system is a software that helps software developers to work together and maintain a complete history of their work, right? So they can make a history of their code, like yesterday what they did, and the day before yesterday what they did, last week what they did. They can actually review from their commits what they have done, and if they want to go back, that means revert to a previous version of code, they can easily do that. So without using a version control system, that would be very difficult, right? We can just press Control Z and just go to the previous state from the last one. But if you want to go to some of the code that you had done, say last week, last month, that's very difficult. Also, you can keep track of the code from other colleagues, right, from this Git version system. So what are the functions of the VCS? Means it allows developers to work simultaneously, like, so you can multiple developers can work for a same project, same code base without much conflicts. So that is the main idea of a version control system, right? Otherwise it would be very tedious to work like that. If you are not using a version control system, suppose you are working with any 20 files, 30 files, or say 50 files, some developers you need to allocate. Suppose you have around 5 to 6 developers, right? You need to allocate one file to each of them. So this is the way, that is the old school way of handling, the conflicts between the developers and their code. But in Git, so the process is much easy, right? So it does not allow overwriting each other's changes. Suppose one developer is doing some changes to a file, and the other developer is also doing a change to file means, right? So Git is very intelligent, and it can actually merge that code automatically. So, but if both the developers are working in the same line, right, same line, then Git can't know whose work it should take. So in that scenario, a Git conflict occurs. Both developers should come together and resolve their conflict. So that is the main idea here. So it maintains a history of every version of the code. Like I previously said, you can go to or revert to a previous version of the code without much difficulty. So if you see the type of VCS, we can see that mainly two types, right? One is the centralized version control system, and other is decentralized version control system. So Git falls under the decentralized version control system category. Right? Decentralized means it is not centralized, one server and everything can. If you see the old SVN, that is subversion kind of systems, the main code is just, it's in one server, right? All the developers have to work online, and they have to pull the code from the central server, and then they have to work. If they are not online, they cannot work. They cannot work easily. They cannot merge code easily, right? So that is not in the case of decentralized version control systems like Git. Like, so every local system has its own repository, right? So if you have 5 developers, the 5 developers can clone their systems in their local machine, and then they can work without even the internet connection and locally commit those changes, and they can merge the changes once their system is ready, or once they get online. So the developer has much control in this scenario. So that's why most of the developers like this kind of version management system. So if you see the advantages of Git, it's free and open source, right? You don't have to pay any fees for using Git. It's very fast. And if you wonder that can it work thousands of your code base, so it can definitely work, right? It can scale up to any kind of size, because it is so the project started for Linux Software Foundation, and they have thousands of developers, and Git is working perfectly for them. If Git can work perfectly for those kind of big community, for your developers also it can work very well. And it's kind of backup, implicit backup, right? So you can see who done what, those kind of changes, right? So if you found a mistake in your program and you need to find out who done that, you can look into the Git log and see who done that and at which point and which time they did it. So this kind of history you can maintain for your code, and you don't need any kind of powerful hardware, those kind of stuff for using this Git. It is very lightweight and very fast. And the one more point we need to look about Git is, right, it has easier branching system, right? It's not like SVN. It has very easier branching system than everything works in local. So once a developer make a copy of your main code, that is we call in Git the master branch, and they can actually make a copy and then create a branch out of it, and then they can start working on it, right? For example, you have a website and you need to implement a login system, or Facebook login system, Twitter login system, like that stuff, right? So they don't want to, so it can take a long time, maybe 1 week or 2 weeks for developing this, and they don't want to disturb the main workflow of the website, right? They don't have to merge it until their work is get done. So in this scenario, they can just create a branch out of the main code, and then they can actually work independently for this Facebook login kind of stuff, right? And then once it is done and once it is ready to merge to the main branch, they can easily merge their code into the branch into the main branch, so that the other developers who are working on the system is no longer affected by this developer's work. So that is very advantageous for multi-team, multi-developers working ecosystem. So we can see about the workflow of Git, how it works, right? So if we see that there are two main things, differentiations we have. There is a local and the remote, right? The remote is the remote repository that we have in the server. There is a backup server we have, Git, the server in which Git resides. From that server, your developers can copy, that means clone their repository to their local, so that a local copy of local repository is maintained in their system. So, and if you see the local system, it has three main stages. One is working directory, one is staging area, and one is local repository. once the code is there in the local repository, local system, that is local system, it can be in one of these three stages, right? It can be committed, like it can be saved, that is in the local repository. Suppose you have a new file, means it is in the working directory, so then you need to add to the staging area. Staging area means index area. Like suppose I will say an example, like suppose you have around 10 files in the working directory. You have just added 10 new files for your working. It is in the working directory. Then you say, like, you need to save around 8 files, right? 8 files you need to save. First, you need to mark those 8 files for saving. Otherwise, everything will be saved to the local repository that you don't want, right? So you should mark 8 files for saving into the local repository. In that case, you just mark these 8 files out of the 10 files. So those 8 files is stored, added to the staging area. That you can do from the git add command. Git add, use the file names there, so that those files will be added to the staging area. Then those files can be committed to the local repository. Committed means just saving those files to the local repository. So then after the work is done, you can just push to the remote repository so that other developers can take your code. So this is the so some concepts here may not be understandable for the new developers. Like if they're working with the version control system, they are not experienced with the version control system, means they should have some difficulty. So, but if we see an example, then they can understand very quickly, I guess. So I will provide an example for this in the my next video. Just you need to subscribe if you want to see it. Like, thank you very much.